Hey YouTube, welcome back to our channel. My name is Elena.
And I'm Björn.
And we are Viking Age reenactors and living historians here to talk with you about your favorite Viking shows.
Today we are taking a look at Vikings Season 6 Part 2, Episode 5.
Wonder what he would think if he knew he was marrying a witch.
He knows.
He knows.
Yes. And he doesn't care. So you have no power over me, Eric. You can't reveal anything to Harold. You can't shame me.
So this seems to be kind of implying that that Eric is like blackmailing her to keep her secret of her being a witch because that would make her like unmarriable or just like an outcast in society. Mm-hmm. And first off, it wouldn't be called a witch. She'd be called like a seeress or like a vulva or something like that. And also, if she was a vulva, then it wouldn't be a bad thing. She'd actually have a very high status in Norse culture, Norse society, because vulvas and seeresses were revered and feared kind of in equal measure, but they were given a ton of respect, and if you would invite one into your home to divinate and to tell the secrets of their esoteric means, they were actually gifted the high seat and given the place of honor in your home. There's some ideas of, magical people from outside cultures that are kind of seen as the other and viewed with like skepticism or like, just from a distance. But also there's stories and tales about how if a Norse person wanted to learn magic, they were actually sent north to like the Sami tribes and stuff to basically learn how to use magic and then come back and do it.
Yeah, and this is something that has been a recurring theme with her this season.
Yeah.
At least she seems to have been practicing magic this entire time, but like in secret. And now Eric has seen her, and I do remember a scene where she asked him not to tell anybody about what he saw, and now it's becoming clear that she didn't want others to know that she was a vulva or seeress, whatever she was even trying to do in the first place. But you wouldn't really keep that to yourself, I feel like.
Yeah, like
if
it
that
wouldn't...
was a gift for you.
Exactly, yeah. It wouldn't really be like this shameful secret that you keep. If this were a place that was fully Christianized, then that would be a different story.
Right.
If this was a Christian nation that she was living in, then absolutely she'd want to keep that a secret, because then it'd be, she'd have this magical prowess with the pagan gods, and she would be an outcast that way. But they're still very heavily pagan and still devout to Odin and trying to get into Valhalla and all kinds of things. So
Take this bow and arrow and kill your uncle.
God commanded
Don't be a cripple anymore.
to forgive one another. No, Igor! Not you! No! I'm sorry.
okay, so this scene is going to be a little bit weird, but this scene kind of reminds me a little bit of the death of Baldr. So briefly to go over it, so in Norse mythology, Frigg, Baldr's mother, has a dream that Baldr dies, and she's very upset, and so she goes around making everything in existence, basically, swear not to harm Baldr. And everybody loves Baldr, because he's the most favorite of all the gods, he's the most loved, and so they all readily are like, oh yeah, we won't do that. Except for Mistletoe, who was apparently too young to make an oath like that. So that's the only one that got away with it. And so when they go back, all the gods decide to start throwing everything that they can at Baldr to try to kill him as like a fun thing, because it can't. So he's just like, everything's bouncing off of him, and it's great. He also has a brother, Othere, who's blind, and Othere is kind of sitting on the sideline very sad because he can't participate and also throw things at his brother. So Loki comes up and is like, oh, you're not having any fun. Here, I'll help you. And he gives him either like a spear or an arrow, it depends on the story, but it's made out of mistletoe. And so Loki guides Hothere's hand, and then Othere ends up killing Baldr because the mistletoe strikes him and kills him. And so that was necessary, because this scene kind of reminds me of that tale a little bit, because Baldr is believed, in the academic world, to kind of represent this like Christ-like figure in the mythology. And Oleg here is also kind of going through this epiphany where he's kind of seeing himself as Christ as well.
Right.
With, getting crucified and being sacrificed and lamenting and everything. And so the whole idea of Eva kind of like trying to help little Igor by like shooting him and, like guiding his hand kind of thing to kill his uncle. It's like a weird roundabout way, but it does remind me a little bit of that story in the mythology, which is really cool. It's very interesting because obviously the death of Baldr is what triggers Ragnarok.
Right.
So I'm curious if they intentionally hinted at that story to signify Oleg's death being something more profound. Especially with his last words being, forgive them for they know not what they do. I don't know if that's just him lamenting his own death or if it's like foreshadowing of something else to come. If it's intentional, it's a really interesting illusion. If it's not, then it's sheer dumb luck.
Yeah, they just stumbled straight into that.
Yeah, they just fell face first into that reference, and I'm almost more impressed if that's the case. Wow. And so, on this topic as well, we actually know a little bit about how Oleg historically dies.
Yeah, it was not like that. The story that we have of Oleg's death comes to us from the primary chronicle, and it involves a prophecy, but not the prophecy that was told here. I think it was an episode or two ago, where he prophesized someone falling off of that balcony.
Yeah, I think it was just like the end of the last one.
Yeah. So in the primary chronicle, the prophecy that Oleg receives from Osiris is that he would die from his stallion. That's basically how he would come about his death. So what he does to try and prevent that is he sends his horse out into the wilderness. He just kind of lets it go. He doesn't want it anywhere near him. And he thinks that if his stallion is not anywhere near him, then he would be fine.
Yeah, no harm can come.
Yeah, no harm.
Totally logical.
Yeah. So years later, curiosity gets the better of him, and he's wondering what happened to the horse after all of the years that he hasn't seen it. So he starts asking about it, and he's told that the horse had died by that point. So for his own peace of mind and just, again, curiosity, he asks to be brought to the site where the horse died, basically. So he's taken there, and he sees the horse's skull in the ground, like half in the ground, basically. And sort of like as in a, kind of like in a, one moment I'm not going to die, he kicks the skull, and out slithers a snake and bites him in the foot, and he dies.
Literally the definition of tempting fate.
Yeah.
Like, well done.
Yeah. Now, it is kind of important to note that the story is also attested to another person in history by a different chronicle. And it also creates a theme that is this threefold death, basically. And that's a bigger theme that we see throughout the Proto-Indo-European writing. And this is only one instance of it.
I go now to join Björn in Valhalla.
So wedding and a funeral.
In Valhalla.
So this is very questionable.
Yeah.
We know that in order to get into Valhalla, you have to die in battle, first of all. And even then, you're not guaranteed to go to Valhalla.
Yeah.
Because the best of the best warriors get chosen, which Gunhild could. She is a very good warrior.
Totally.
She might be chosen for that.
Totally.
And then once you are chosen by the Valkyries, half of those still don't go to Valhalla. They go to Freyja's hall.
Exactly.
Frey gets first pick of that. So Gunhild might have gone to Freya, if she died in battle anyways. Now, the other way that she could have possibly gone to Valhalla is if she had made herself into a sacrifice at the point of Björn's burial. So, sort of the same way, and we've heard the story through Ibn Fadlan, who had traveled to the Rus territories, where a slave girl was sacrificed so that she could follow her master into the afterlife. So if her master was going to Valhalla, then she would go to Valhalla as well, or basically follow him wherever. So that's another option for her to follow Bjorn, is to sacrifice herself to be buried alongside him.
Right.
And
that
then
even,
she would follow him.
Yeah, and that even happens in the mythology too with Baldr's death, because when Baldr is put on the ship and the funeral pyre is set, his wife Nanna, actually overcome with grief, jumps onto the ship and like lays down next to him to die alongside him, and she joins him in hell. So yeah, so that is one way that she would have been able to join him. In addition, and she as a Norse woman would know this, if you drown, that's actually brings you to the domain of Ran, which is the giantess sea goddess. So it's said that those who drown or die at sea are actually caught up in Ran's net, and she uses this giant net to cast into the ocean and collect like not only like ship goods that have been smashed and sunk to the bottom of the sea, like in terms of gold and silver and precious metals, but also all those who died. And she gathers them and brings them to her own hall, where they can stay with her forever. So she would definitely know that if she, especially willingly, goes out and drowns in the middle of the sea, she's definitely not going to Valhalla.
Yeah.
So even to actually make this a little bit more interesting, and now this has more roots in like modern Scandinavian folklore kind of thing, but it's also said that if you died at sea, you might even become a draugr, which is, I mean, there's multiple different types as put in terms of like land, sea, and all kinds of things like that. But essentially, like a draugr or that type of entity is like a it's like a reincarnated zombie in a sense.
Like think Pirates of the Caribbean.
Kinda, yeah. And that would be like a draugr, which is specifically those who died at sea. And they would actually have like these little boats of themselves where they'd like come and latch on to them and try to drag people down into the sea and give them their own watery death too. So they were like these very embittered, kind of like violent creatures that, were like omens of death. So if we want to use a little bit of like some modern folklore, she might come back in the series as a draugr.
Oh boy.
Which would actually kind of be intense. Like, I'd love to see that. Just for fun. But yeah, no. There's no reason why she should have done this if she's trying to get to see Bjorn again.
Yeah.
You have to share it! It is a gift from the gods. It was sent to me. What else can it mean? Have you lost your mind? The gods have chosen me. You don't care if everyone else uses dice. I am king here. To the mountains! Rejoice! Rejoice!
Congrats. You did it. You're king of the whale. So a short little arc here of, our Greenlander moment almost. And I'm starting to think that they were trying to kind of allude to an earlier settlement before Eric the Red landed there afterwards. They kind of went through the steps. The really frustrating part about the story of Snæbjørn's journey to Greenland and attempted settlement there is that the saga that had that written down is no longer available to us. It's been lost over the years. And that's the really frustrating part. The sagas that we have now pick up with Eric the Red's travels, basically. So we really don't know much about it, but the little that we know was more or less portrayed here. They landed, with a boat or two. You know, they had a couple of boats. They tried to sort of make a settlement without really staking out the land too much. You know, spent a little bit of time there. I don't know how long they were there for. Eventually, a conflict arose. Deaths were had, and then the rest kind of sailed off. The difference here being is that the survivors that sailed back to Iceland. I'm kind of assuming that they're still going to be going on to North America here.
Right.
Granted, they have no idea which way they're going. Like, they have no course. They're just kind of sailing until they see something. So it could be that in history, the survivors sailed off without really knowing where they were going and eventually managed to clobber their way back to Iceland. And here they don't know where they're going, but eventually they'll land in North America. We did just find out through some casting news that the new series on Netflix is going to have Leif Erikson.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of assuming that they're going to use this as a little bit of a tie-in. So they had this little story arc in Greenland that already happened, and then I'm assuming in the new series they're going to follow through with Eric the Red and Leif Erikson and that whole saga.
That'd be really cool. That'd be like good on them for it, you know?
Who taught you to use weapons like that? Where did you learn to fight? Like a warrior.
There was a priest in
I served Byzantium. I was taught by some of the greatest fighters in the world. Why would they teach you to fight? So I could serve in his personal bodyguard, of course. He always chose Vikings to serve in his bodyguard.
Is this just a new thing that we do where we have these like priests that know how to fight for whatever reason? We had it in Firefly.
Yeah. Well, it's just like...
Now we have it here. I'm pretty sure this happened somewhere else.
Yeah, and like, I'm pretty... Like, we had it in The Last Kingdom, too, with not Beorca, but with the other one.
Oh, yeah.
Who was like a warrior priest. Like, he was a warrior, and then he became a priest. And like, it's such a trope now.
Yeah.
It's like the D&D joke that like every innkeeper is secretly a level 20 fighter kind of thing of just like an old retired vet.
I do actually wonder who he is, like who his character actually is.
Yeah, because now we know that he was actually a Varangian. And that's pretty substantial actually, because not only is it a crazy distance to travel, but you also had to like have some renown. You had to be of rank to like serve as a Varangian too. We talked a bit about it last time.
Yeah.
But yeah, you had to kind of like buy your way in a little bit and show that, you know, you had the wealth and renown to be able to serve as the Varangian Guard. So whoever he actually is, because he's taken on this persona of being Othere, but whoever he really truly is has to be somebody important or substantial. Like, my mind is immediately going to Harald Hardrada, who is actually would be the last Viking king of Norway.
Right.
But that wouldn't fit the storyline in the least bit, which
But
wouldn't stop them from doing it. So that's where my mind's going to. I'm not really sure of, you know, who else he might be, unless it's just some made-up character or something. But
yeah, so we are halfway through this part 2 of the season.
huzzah!
We have 5 episodes to go. Next week we're going to take a little bit of a breather because, as mentioned before, we do have a new cast for the new show that we'd like to take a look at with you guys. So we're going to be filming that video and discussing the cast and the characters that we're expecting to see in the new show. We're really excited about it, honestly.
Yeah, can't wait to do some like very early on speculations for what we might be in store for.
Yeah, exactly. And after that, we will pick up with the last 5 episodes and wrap up the show. Well, he kicks the skull, and a snake slithers out of it. I can't even tell the story.
Snake slither. Okay. Ivar and Vitsark go to Norway, see that Harold is pretty much taken over, don't want to be around, go to sail to England, but on their way get attacked by Gunhild the Draugr, and she shipwrecks them, and then they die.
Gigs.
That's how I would write the story. That's how I would pick up and Peter Jackson my way through this show.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you can be notified of our future videos. And we will see you in the next one.